Assalamualaikum everyone. Once again, welcome to iSlam Podcast. It is I, your host Arif Khan, as usual. So thank you very much for joining us on this, I guess, final podcast before the Ramadan break. So we have a lot to cover today. So I'm just going to bring our usual panel in, and I think we have an OG crowd here: Mr. Hanan Ghafoor, Omar Asawi, and Imad Hussain. Gentlemen, welcome.
Assalamualaikum.
Time no see, gentlemen.
What's that?
It's a long time no see, guys.
Yeah, we've been having a lot of different combinations, and thank you everyone who's filled in on all our guests. But it's nice to have the original crew back here.
It's good to be back.
I guess you answered one of the questions I had, is whether we're going to have a podcast next week, but I guess we're not going to.
No, I think with Ramadan, I think it's best to focus on more important things. But maybe around the end, hopefully before the season resumes again, we'll have another podcast. But we'll talk more about that soon.
Yeah, we'll have a week before the season starts after Ramadan. So
what if we had a guest podcast crew do it next week? Like just completely random group, whoever, all these guys have been asking us to join the podcast. We just be like, you know what? Here, guys, here are the keys to the castle. Just do one next week. Let's see how it goes.
We could have a very, very crazy one where I'll be happy to host, because it would be fair to get these people to run this. I'll run it and just have like 9 guests in and pandemonium. Everyone can talk over each other.
I think that's just as bad as having Hanan on the podcast by himself. So
no, that's Hanan and Baksh together.
Yeah, just a banter.
All right, boys. So with that said, I know we have a lot of stuff to cover, so why don't we jump right into it? All right, let's see. Let's make this a little cleaner. Get rid of that. All right, so week 8 preview. So we're going to have the following. Well, I think it says week 7 here. Well, week 7
review.
Yeah, so that's right. So the reviews of last week, we're going to be doing the 3 stars of the game, the One World Halal Foods Player of the Week, as well as league announcements. A lot of trades that happened recently, because yesterday was the trade deadline. And of course, we're going to try to sneak in some week 8 previews if we can. And of course, rapid fire. I don't know if we'll have time for that today, but it's up there. We'll try our best.
Oops.
All right, boys, let's get into it. So first game of last week was Iman versus Ikhlas, and Mr. Shadow GM himself, Abdullah. He's also showing that he's not just a Shadow GM, but he's a real life scorer too. He had a heck of a game.
5 points. Wow.
Yeah.
A goal and 4 assists.
You know what? I saw this game, and it was. I mean, Hanan, I know that you were in this game, but you were late, so I'm not going to give you the courtesy. And oh man, these guys look great. Iman looked absolutely good. Look, Ikhlas was missing AR. They were missing RC. They were missing Tayyib. So obviously they're missing some of their big guns, and they're a little bit short benched. But Ikhlas came out really hard out of the gate, and I think that was to their detriment. The young guys, they decided to, you know what, we're just going to run, we're going to go with it, and they just tired themselves out. They didn't have the stamina to keep up with Iman, and Iman just countered, and they played their game. I think Hanan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys had relatively a full roster. And after this game, I kept repeating myself during and after the game. I was like, man, if this is what these guys can do, then myself, as being a member of Sabra at the time, I was like, man, they're probably going to catch us if they keep doing this. So kudos to Iman, but Hanan, maybe you can give us the inside scoop, being that you were on the bench.
Here's the thing, and you're right. You mentioned 3 players that were missing from a class, and I believe Idris Dean was missing that Zane had pointed out. So, kudos to a team that's in high school that beat up the kid that's still in, kindergarten, because that whole line is gone. So, if anyone's going to need an ego boost, Iman's going to need it in this game, where they basically trashed the second and third line. I mean, shout out to still, Mohamed Claire. He managed to squeeze out a star. And to be honest, I think that's more of an insult to Iman. Like the whole first line's missing from a class, and you couldn't get all 3 stars. Like what's happening here? But I like the way Abdullah Patel played and Ali Wadi. I think this is a making of good chemistry. And I think what they have going for them is pretty solid in moving in the right direction. I think use the momentum. Yeah, you beat a team that's missing all their star players, but build off of this. This is the good momentum you need going into the last game before Ramadan to try to secure that last playoff spot.
Are you wearing a scarf?
I was going to just ask him, speaking of school, are you wearing like a Harry Potter Gryffindor scarf or something? What the heck?
Definitely.
I wore this for Zaid Maju because I know he's not a big fan of wraparounds, because that's how 2 of the goals went in on him.
Oh my god! Yeah, wow.
I'm a fun guy.
Oh boy.
All right, I think Jade has to say something on that one. But anyways, you know what? On that note, we're going to move on. That was cold and hot at the same time.
Speaking of which,
yeah, actually, you know what? That's a great segue. Speaking of which, Yakin goes from being absolutely cold on the previous week to actually being on fire this week. Our team got a 4-0 win over Sabr here. And once again, Azar Zafar, just showing how important of a piece he is, because he was not there last week or the week before, and we lost big time. And this week, again, he's in the lineup and he does stuff, Johan doing Johan things. And Ali Khawaja, even though he was a 3rd star, lot of people were arguing that he should have actually been the 1st star. He was stellar.
yeah, I mean, and Shohan, you mentioned Azhar with the 2 goals, but then Shohan he was in on all 4 goals with he had 1 goal and 3 assists. So, guys performing, guys you expect to step up or stepping up, and I don't know what else you can ask for, RF. On the other side of that thing, there's been the Sabr team that has kind of been a bit out of sorts with guys being absent and unavailable for various reasons, injuries and personal commitments and things like that. And there's also been a fair amount of movement on the team too, even before the trade deadline. So, it takes some time for the team to build some chemistry, and it clearly showed here where they just couldn't compete. Isawa, you played this game on the other side of this things. What do you think?
Did I play this game though?
Did you?
Was I?
Well, yeah.
There's only so many times you can make the same excuse, right? And I've been making this excuse for both of my teams in the last 2 seasons, in that the attendance matters. And so when you don't have the attendance, whether for injury or otherwise, you get tired, you make mistakes, and like me personally, I don't think I played a really good game at all this season, and I was drafted 2nd on that team. So you have somebody like I consider myself at this point a wasted pick for Sabr, because I haven't been doing anything.
Apparently, your GM thought the same.
Exactly, right? And
or
so
said the same.
Exactly, right? So look, you have guys who are drafted on the team. I think the vision of how the team was drafted, it hasn't worked out, right? And I guess we're gonna get this a little bit later, but look, guys got tired. We were not, like, even when we had a power play, we were struggling to enter the zone. So it just seems like everybody's just operating on different gears. And that first game where we played really, really well against Iman, we had the whole roster. That team has just disappeared. It's vanished. It's no longer there anymore. And so I think Huzli decided that some changes needed to be made, and he went ahead and made them. But with respect to this game, we just got thoroughly outplayed. Azar Zafar scored 2 goals from behind our net, and so that speaks to the entire effort of our whole team, right? In that regard, right? It's just a bad night, and Yusuf on the bench, he's like, this is one of those games where it doesn't matter what you do, nothing's going to go in for you, right? And he just kind of plopped himself on the bench, and that was that.
Last week I wasn't on the podcast. I was kind of busy with work and stuff, so I didn't get to address Yakin's crappy game against Rida, and not just crappy game, but Rida also played really well, gotta say. So I was seeing on the chat there was a lot of talk about Yakin implosion, issues in the locker, and I was like laughing my head up, because there was nothing like that. We knew we had a crappy game and we needed to come out strong. and that's exactly what we did. So we're happy with our result, but understandably, Sabah had a hard time there. But again,
And
they made quite a few changes.
I'll say one thing too. I believe Yakin was really, really good at basically not collapsing on the ball and really everybody kind of sticking to where they're supposed to be. So I can remember distinctly 2 or 3 plays where my defense partner decided to pinch, and it was basically me and 2 other defensemen, two of the wingers, right? And I got caught on a 2-on-1, and so I find it really respectable that Yakin doesn't chase the ball. Right, they kind of trust people to do their job, and then they will move up as a team, and I think that's kind of what killed us a little bit, right? Because Azhar got to jump on me in a couple of those plays, and yes, I established body position on him, but I mean, he if he had decided to come around the net, he would have beat me, right? Just because he was in better position than I was.
I think, Hanan, you were trying to get something in?
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say is that, Adil Chauhan came out of this game with 4 points. He was involved in every single point. And one of the things Rida did well last week is that they really isolated him. They put the pressure on him, and it didn't give him enough time to make those movements. And I think Yakin did suffer because of that. I think against the Sabah game, that strategy was not executed the same one that Red had. I think there was very little pressure on, Adil. I think, and it might also be the fact that, Azhar, had 2 fantastic goals right from the beginning, and you kind of shake and you're kind of thinking, well, now we have Azhar to cover, we have RF to cover by natural instincts. And then, you almost forget that, typically every game, Otto's going to be on the score sheet and he's going to be involved in every play. And I think, you cannot give him that space. And I think that's one of the things Sabah failed at, is that they didn't have someone assigned to him or did not talk to their forwards, look out for Otto every shift.
Yeah.
So sorry, go ahead. I was going to say we have to move on, but real quick, Ahmad, go ahead.
Yeah, I think he's a true catalyst for your team, and I mean, there's no slight to anyone else on your team. It's just a matter of how the team is constructed, and Adil is a GM starting point, and you built a team around him. That's so right. As he goes and his attendance, it determines how your team performs.
Yeah, but again, not to take anything away from Adil, but Adil was there against the Rida game, right? And we didn't do well. Of course, we've talked about that ad nauseum, but it's still a big factor that some of our other guys weren't there and they showed up this game and we won. So I want to move on, but one last thing about this game. Zaid Maji took a couple of shots to the head, not like elbows, but actual slap shots. One of them dinged his head pretty hard, and I think he suffered a little bit of an injury to his head. So Zaid, good looking at, man. Hope you get better, inshallah, and
inshallah
this Friday.
Yeah, at the end, I heard his ear is something was going around with his ear. Like, does it look like a popped ear?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about other people's
I don't know,
and private whatever. If he wants to share that stuff with someone, that's fine. But I think we should just leave it at that.
Well, we'll put it up, Zaid. Put the comment out.
All right, boys, let's move on to the next one. So the third game, this was actually a lot of fun. I was watching this as I was taking pictures. Ihsan versus Rida. So Ihsan kind of did to Rida what Rida did to Yakin the previous week.
This was a really fun game. I'm going to echo that from yourself, Arif. And I think this really all started with Dawood. He scored the first goal. He really set the pace and tone of this game. And then naturally, that trickled down with the first overall pick from their team with Hamza Shakil, just having an absolute monster of a game. And I think, it's one of the things that you don't often see from Ihsan's bench is that they looked like they were having fun. Everyone was smiling. Everyone was having a good time, and everyone was really stepping up and playing to their fullest. Now, the one thing I did notice in this game is that there were a lot of penalties. And I think, you can always say that, this ref, that ref. At the end of the day, as Habibi always mentions to us, is that both teams have the exact same ref on the field. And if I'm not mistaken, I think these refs are going to be the same ones for this week. So you have a better sense of, what they're calling, what you can, quote unquote, get away with, but what you should really be careful of and, try to stay out of the bench. But I think, Ihsan, even though they took the majority of the penalties, I mean, kudos to them. Like, I think they needed this. This was one of those wins where it must have felt really good, I imagine, Imad.
Well, Imad, you were on it. What's your take?
Yeah, having missed the previous 2 games and then coming to this game and seeing a different level of energy coming off the win the previous week, our first win of the season, and now having back-to-back wins, it was a totally different team to be with. There was just so much energy on the team. The first time we had every single person come out to the game. So we were able to roll our lines fully, and it's just like everyone was contributing. The lines were rolling consistently. Line 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 all over and over again. Daoud was his first goal of the season. I'm sure he's happy to get that monkey off the back, and also lose the title of water boy for the team. So he's actually doing something else that's productive. But you mentioned Hamza Shakil, who really shows up on the score sheet. I think personally, Kadir and Ismail had huge games. Ismail had 2 goals. Kadir a goal and assist, but like Kadir was literally all over the place. He was giving the ball in the zone. He had shots from the point, everything. So it was just an all-around strong effort from the team. But when you look at Rida, I think maybe they were caught a little off guard early on, just by the relentless pressure that we had from rolling our lines regularly. And they were missing 2 key guys on their team. So they're missing Adil Patel and Suleiman Nakida. Sorry, I don't know if that pronunciation is right. I don't want to pull a Hanan. But 2 key guys for their team. So we took advantage of that. And the problem has been with Isan is we've been in situations where we've had an advantage and haven't been able to capitalize on that. So I was really proud of the team that we actually were able to capitalize on it and have a convincing win against a very strong team.
Would you say it was a clinic?
Oh, well, the scoreboard says it all, doesn't it? And I believe there's some video footage on social media, so I'll let everyone judge.
I want to check out those highlights, but I think that Reds really come alive now, right? And at the beginning of the season, we had pegged them as a really, really good team, and it didn't look like the bounces were going their way. They were keeping it close, like they weren't losing. They also weren't winning, but I think that it's really nice to see Red come into their own. And I think somebody had mentioned it last week that I think it was Hanan, that if they had won, they would basically vault into first place or second place. I'm not sure. Yeah. So I'm assuming they're there now, right?
Tied for first place in the division with Yakin. Yakin holds a tiebreaker. No.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about Rida, though. Let's not downplay their season thus far either, right? I mean, they've been tremendous. They were missing their GM, and coming from a team that got smacked around a couple of weeks ago, I can tell you that this is probably the best thing that could have happened to Rida, right? They have not had to really face any kind of adversity. It's better that you face this now and get dropped to reality before this happens in the playoffs when you get eliminated.
Was this their first loss?
This is their first loss. But here's the thing is, I think one of the things, that really had Rida, where Isan shine in here, is that they really isolated Zaid Khaler. I think they did watch last game. You do know that he sometimes plays behind the defense and his team's ready to activate him and just have him go flying. But there was always someone covering Zaid, and he's fast. So, assigning someone fast on the defensive side, which not a lot of teams have, was probably key on Isan's side to make sure that, this is the first game Zaid, I don't think, scored. This was his first assist, and Asif Dika had stepped up for Rida, but not fast enough.
Yep. All right, so the third match of the night was between Haya and Taqwa, the purple teams almost. And this was a 4-1 win for Haya. At one point, this game looked kind of boring. I think it was like 1-1 or something. Neither team seemed to be in it. I was taking pictures from the penalty box, and neither team was in it. But then I think Haya kind of turned it up, and eventually they took the win, 4-1. And we have to mention that Zaid, despite getting hurt in his game, he still stuck around because Haya needed an extra goalie, and he played for them and won. So thank you.
And, here's the thing is, and I said this last week, Taqwa is a team that can play the first period really well, and they just get absolutely gassed out. And I think they only dressed 8 players in total, one of them probably being the goalie. So, you got a team that already struggles in the second period, and they're already heading into the second period. I think they were down a goal. Yeah, they were down 1 goal. So it's already a crazy uphill battle. And, really want to give a shout out to Asan Wasif. I think he was drafted in the latter round, but he ended up scoring a shorthanded goal for Taqwa. So, they are getting production from not just, Kazi and the rest of the team, but they are getting production from the third line. It's just that their cardio is not there to play the full game.
Look, I think this was maybe a little bit of a letdown for Taqwa. No offense to Haya, but Haya was missing their 2 GMs, Luke and Salman Khalid. and they have been missing them for a while. And I think they're missing a couple other guys too. The benches were quite even from what I saw. I mean, off by maybe one or two guys for Haya, but I think maybe Tuckawa really wants this one back. They had an opportunity to really capitalize on this, get some 2 big points, and maintain that first place position in their division. And now they're sitting in third place, which is not a great place to be. Kudos to Zaid Maju, who played a game before, and he came. He had a little bit of a rough game in that game against Yakin, but he came back and he had a solid game. He made some big saves. He was a wall out there, and he got Haya the win. So you can't predict how this stuff is going to happen, but it worked out well for Haya.
I think there was a turning point in this game where, and I could be wrong, so forgive me if I am, but I think one of the Tuckawa guys got a breakaway, and they went in and either they missed or Maju made the save, but either way, he didn't score. The play went the other way, and after a few cycles, I believe Haya ended up scoring. And I think the score was 1-1 at the time, right? And that kind of changed the balance, where that could have been 2-1 for Tuckawa. It's a different game. But that, I think, really let out a lot of the air from their tires. But again, there was still a lot of time left. They could have done something, but it's still hard to do.
And look, it was a close game, right? So the fourth goal for Haya was an empty netter with 15 seconds left. They had a 2-goal lead for pretty much almost the entire second period, and they were able to lock it down, and both defensively and in the net. So kudos to them.
Yep. All right. So from that, the One World Foods Player of the Week is Mr. Hamza Shakil with 1 goal, 2 assists, and 3 points. I know, again, this sometimes gets a little controversial because there are players who have more points and whatnot. But again, first of all, it's the refs that choose, the media team, OC. We have no hand in this. But that's not to take away from the fact that Hamza had a fantastic game, and he really spearheaded their win there.
Yeah, for sure. And just to add to that, thanks for that clarification, RF. The other thing too is that points don't tell the entire story all the time, right? It really depends on how you contribute and when you contribute for your team and what kind of difference you make in the game you play in. So yeah, maybe some guys had more points or not. And again, I don't know the reasoning behind the refs choosing this. They just give it to us at the end of the night and we say, okay, that's it. But that's also something to consider if guys are just wondering on, why one person gets it over another.
Yep.
Yeah, but I think, like what you said, Imad, I will say this, watching Hamza out there, he had a fantastic game. And I think this solidifies, why he was picked in the first round for Isan is that, it's not the goal. Even the goal he scored was, beautiful, but it's the playmaking he did that allowed the rest of the team to also step up. And, kudos to him. Definitely well deserved. And I mean, this was a tough one. I think, there was a lot of people that I think everyone would be like, yeah, this person deserved it, this person did it. But at the end of the day, playing that full 30 minutes, both, on and on the bench and just being that voice of reason definitely can earn you that spot.
For sure. And the other thing too is, I see a comment there from Zane about OC choosing the player of the week. It's tough, right? Because not all of us get a chance to see all of the games every week. We're playing some games, we're getting ready in the change room, changing back after games or have personal commitments. So the only people who are committed to watching all the games all night are the refs, and they don't have any biases. They're just there to call the games, and that's why they're the best people to be able to call those.
All right, so let's move on to league announcements, jerseys, masks, spectators. Who wants to take this, Imad or Omar?
Omar, can you take it?
Okay. Okay. So with regards to jerseys, it'll probably be more relevant in the next couple of slides, but you do need to be mindful of your jersey. Don't lose it. There is a cost to replace a jersey. If you have been traded, you are expected to wash your jersey and bring it to the rink or make arrangements if it's needed earlier or requested from you earlier. Like I've had guys come and pick it up from my house. Whatever arrangements you need to make them. Your masks. So the masks are the mask mandate is now over in Ontario, and you're not required to wear a mask when you enter the premises anymore. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, if you still wish to wear a mask, you're free to do so. But it's no longer required by the venue, and that means that spectators are also allowed in the arena. Again, just following all the rules of the space, but spectators are allowed, and we welcome them, inshallah.
And on the topic of masks, also, we should still remind people that even though a lot of these restrictions have been lifted, if you are feeling sick or if you know that you've been in contact with someone who has sick, just because somebody doesn't force you to divulge that, don't hold back on it, right? Be respectful for everyone else. If you're sick, you're feeling sick, stay home. Your health, and the health of everyone else is more important than a hockey game.
Yeah, one other.
just-
Sorry, go ahead, Iman.
Yeah, just to add to that, thanks, Arif. The other thing, determination we have made and made clear to all players this season is that if they have been seen, if they are witnessed to be exhibiting symptoms while at the rink, then there could be consequences for that too. So we want everyone to be safe and everything. So just be responsible.
Yeah, I was asked to speak to, and I feel like we talk about this around this time every single season. But I was requested to speak to the expectations that we have of players and the Brotherhood League, and so we've had some incidences, not just last week, but in previous weeks, of things being said, things being done, and I, having observed some of these, I really feel like there's no need for it. We come on Friday nights, we come here to play hockey. Um, it it's I'll say this again, it's gamesmanship. Like if somebody says, "Oh, you go pick up your jock strap," that's not a reason to go and push the person or punch them in the face, or you know what I mean. It's
says
part of, right. It's part of the game, and so there is zero reason for anybody to be putting their hands on another player in a threatening way, right? You want to hug someone, pre-Eid, go for it, but that's not acceptable, right? And Dr. Naveed, who is our ombudsman, he handles all league discipline. He has communicated to the GMs, and the GM subsequently should have communicated to their players that the league will be coming down pretty hard on those individuals moving forward. And so there was some discipline that was handed out last week. We don't go into that on the podcast, but Doc has basically made it clear that if these antics continue, then he will just basically increase the the consequences. Okay. So just keep that in mind, guys, is that, we all have to go to work in the morning. Some of us have to take care of our kids on Saturday. Like we can't be out of commission.
Yep. Good said. Okay. So this is a slide that I put in here, and even my panelists here don't really know about this. So I'm going to take maybe a minute of your time to step on a soapbox and then say something here. This is a list of all the people who hopefully most people know, who are the volunteers, OC members. These are the people that help make the league as fun as it is, right? I'm putting it up there for two reasons. One, in case you didn't know, now you know. And two, in the last few weeks, I've been hearing a lot of stuff around the league and the rink when I'm just hanging out. People making comments about the media team not interviewing this person or not doing that, or saying in a sort of bravado way that, oh, how do you like me now? How do you like this now? You said this, but I did that. Guys, this is just for fun, right? This is just for fun. You don't have to take it seriously. You don't have to prove anything to us. If something gets the fire lit under your butt and you do well, mashallah, good for you, man. That was part of it, right? You did well. But I just wanted to mention that different people do different things. I've had some people come up to me and say, well, why didn't you put this? Why didn't you put that? And I'm like, well, I don't do that, right? I don't deal with that aspect of running the league. So again, I don't mean to berate anyone or anything, but one thing that all of these people have in common on this list is none of them get paid to do any of this. This is done out of our own time, outside of work and family time, etc., to make it fun for everyone. We don't necessarily need your accolades. If you do, alhamdulillah, thank you so much. But if you can't say anything nice, at least don't say anything at all, right?
Some of us do this during work.
Just some of us.
And to be clear, there's a space in between Ahmed Mobeen and myself. That bottom list are just the media volunteers. We're not OCs.
Yeah, and also I should mention, even though you have some of the folks up here like Omar and Ahmad who are part of the OC, they also do a lot of work here. Like these slides are done by Ahmad. Omar does a lot of the posters. So anyways, I don't want to take any more time on this, but all these people, they take a lot of flack, and despite taking that flack, they still go and do this work every season for you. So at the very least, you don't have to thank them, but don't like trash them either, right? End of rant.
Thanks, Arif. I really appreciate that. Along the same vein, if anyone does have any constructive feedback about, how things we could approach differently or new things we could do or just anything really, we'd love to hear from you. So, you can just send us a WhatsApp message or, approach us at the rink or whatever. Just we want to make this a great experience for everyone. So if you have feedback, just talk to us.
Even giving a shout out to a fellow teammate that you feel like, hey, like, we don't hear them enough on the podcast and stuff. Sometimes we miss people. Like, I know there was someone on Isan that scored 2 goals, and I don't think we brought him up at all. But like things like that, like it gets missed. It's our bad, but just let us know, remind us,
And
I had less. One of the weeks I had someone coming up to me. I was done my work, my game, and like, oh, why aren't you interviewing anybody from our team now? And I literally made him turn around, and his teammate was being interviewed on the floor. So, anyways, I don't want.
We went from being able to get guys to take pictures to now everybody wanting to be interviewed. So
I used to ask someone to do anything, like even post for a picture, and they'd be like, Burkhan and not want to do anything. Like, it's just...
And if you don't. But anyways, yes, if you have any constructive feedback, it's always welcome. And last but not least, if you think you can do better, prove it.
Wow, there we
I like that.
Come join the team.
I thought my caption was better. It's like, that's how you do a 3-point turn.
This is going to be used for many a meme moving forward.
We can always use more media members.
All right. So speaking of this, we had one person who had to drop. This was a GM, and this person was, of course, Saudagar has exited the building, and in his place, Mr. Hamza Ali has replaced him. So, Omar, you want to talk about this one a little bit?
Look at Hamza's face. It's like he knew he was going to replace Yusuf, and he's kind of like, that I knew this was coming.
I'm ready.
So Yusuf has withdrawn for personal reasons. There's some rumors going around. I mean, the official reason is that he's going to be traveling and he's going to be missing games in the playoffs, and so he decided that it might be best for the team to have some stability on their end and during the playoffs. So he's dropped, and Hamza Ali, who is coming back from injury, hopefully healed up. An assessment that was made of him, I think, on a game on Sunday, said that he looked back into shape and back in form. So we're excited to have Hamza back. They're both very, very fast players. They both have excellent hands and finish, and so I think that Hamza will slot in nicely in terms of what's needed on Subber, and we're excited to have him back. I mean, I don't think anything needs to be said about him. He's well known in the league.
I don't think everyone's excited. Case in point, the person putting this comment right now, Hamza with a broken heart.
But that would be amazing. Like, think about that in the finals. Isan with Dawood facing Subber with Hamza. Every season they always GM together, and then watch that one season that they don't. They have to face each other, like Highlander style.
It's going to be weird seeing Hamza in a jersey other than red, because I pictured him being on Isan for the longest time. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see them face off against each other. Although I don't know if Subber will. I don't know. Well, I'll maybe leave it at that.
All right, let's move on. So there was another big trade between.
Hamza's listening.
Yeah, did they tell you where you're getting into, Hamza?
So maybe we should spend some more time telling Hamza what he got into, but that's fine. We'll move on.
You might have to get a Hamza and Dawood soundtrack as well, since Saudagar is no longer with us.
I also want to call out that Hamza and Dawood have been teammates for the longest time in Islam, and then maybe even I think on Monks or whatever. And Dawood gets, his name gets butchered all the time. He actually misspelled Hamza's name just now. So I don't know how that happens, but Dawood, you can't give us any for misspelling your name anymore if you can't spell your buddy's name properly.
Omar, you're asking who's making these graphics? The gentleman right here in the blue.
Yeah, shout out to Omar Isawi, man. These graphics are amazing. They're absolute bomb.com.
I was looking at some of the graphics posted for trade deadline by Hockey Night in Canada and TSN and NHL even, And they got nothing on this, man. These are
Yeah.
just next level.
It's
Yeah, these are actually nicer than the TSN ones that I was showing you guys. This is way nicer.
see, now everybody would want to get traded, right?
Yeah, just to get that graphic.
You're gonna have a graphic, but no,
I got these on Summer to get traded. That's all.
All right, well, let's move on here, guys. It's we've got a few to cover here. So, Omar, looks like you were in this trade, so maybe you can give your perspective on how it feels. What happened there?
I actually have not been traded since I was 13 years old. So it's been actually 20 years since I've been traded, and it was crazy. Look, you're having a bad season. I definitely had some health issues last season, and so to quote, my GM, right, my stock has dropped, and right, and
Former GM.
my former GM, yes. And the one thing that I love about Husley is, he'll tell you exactly how it is, but he'll make sure that you're ready to have your feelings hurt before. So he'll prime you. Right? He'll prime you. He'll be like, look, can you handle what I'm about to say? Yes, I can. Right. And look, the reality is I have 3 points this season. And that's not enough. That's not enough for someone that was drafted in the second round. So I think that what Husley was looking for was some stability up front, and so he made the trade, and he found a willing trade partner in RF, and I was a little older. Oh, there you go. I might have been a little older. Tahir's are the Muslim ball hockey historian, clearly. But yeah, RF, maybe you can speak to your logic in this trade, and seeing as you pulled the trigger.
Well, I didn't really want to make any changes to our team. We had a fantastic locker room, especially with Faisal. He's just a clown. And, Hamza, it was really nice to get to know him. It's the first time I played with him. And, he's been a very important part of our team. Plus, these two always are sort of jabbing at each other in the WhatsApp group. So we're going to miss that as well. But ultimately, what it came down to was we have a lot of right-handed shooters, especially on the power play. There is no lefties. And that was starting to become problematic. So we needed that big left-hand shot from the point, and who better than Mr. Asawi to provide that? So obviously, to get good quality, you also have to give good quality. So I think while on the surface, a lot of people might think that, oh, that's not a fair trade. Omar was drafted high. These other guys were drafted low. But these other guys also stepped up. Like Hamza played way above his draft spot. So anyways, long story short, Husley got what he wanted. I got what I needed. So, everyone's happy. So now we'll have to see how things turn out on Friday.
Yeah, you know what? I think this trade, no offense to any of the guys on here, but I think this trade works out better in favor for Suber right now, just because they do have two guys who have been producing and have been consistent throughout the season. Based on their position where they were drafted, maybe a little bit higher than that, but they're producing. Whereas, Isawi and Baksh maybe not producing as much as they were thought to. So, you have a little bit of a reclamation project on your hands, RF, here and hope things work out. But, I have no doubt that they'll fit in on the team well. It's just a matter of whether the chemistry will be there and you'll be able to have an impact on the game.
I think Otto and Omar Isawi on the defensive line is going to be an absolute beast mode right there, where you have someone, creating the space, and then Isawi with this, amazing shot if it hits the net. And then for Suber, you're getting two really gritty guys where, they will provide that secondary scoring on the second and third line respectfully. And I think, this is what, Husley wanted, is that he wanted, depth. And I think he definitely got it here on the offensive side.
Well, plus the other reason I made these trades is I was trying to get all the media people on one team. So I just ran out of time. Otherwise, I would have gotten, Hanan Imad and Zoo as well. But the trade deadline's gone.
As close as anyone's ever gotten.
The budget infinity stones, as it were.
Actually, before I move on from this, I got to say, this picture of Hamza and Faisal, they look like a really sweet father-son duo here.
I was waiting for Hanan to make that comment.
I like that.
Faisal coming in saying,
speaking of Hanan was also involved in a trade recently. This is a weird one. Hanan got traded from this team to Daddy Wadi, And now Daddy Wadi has relinquished him, and he's back to where he started. So this is Nancy and Hanan Ghafoor for Ibrahim Hindi and Abdul Wahab Mohammed.
Drake was right, man. Started from the bottom. Now we back here.
You're still there.
Oh Lord! I mean, to be honest, looking at the moves that Sabr has done, I think, personally speaking, I think this was a win for Sabr on this trade. For me personally thinking, I think Ibrahim Hindi missing this week as well is going to be detrimental to Iman, who are in a position where every game is almost a must win to ensure that they can make the playoffs. Whereas Sabr is looking to build, and I think one of the problems, as Omar mentioned earlier, was that attendance has been a major issue, and I don't think you're going to get that with Zuhair and myself. Definitely will be here for this game, and I think having as many pieces as you can for Sabr especially against Rida. So, and if Adil Patel returns this week, after being gone for 2 weeks, then they definitely have a huge mountain to climb from Sabr side of things. Whereas Iman's going to be not having Hindi. Abdul Wahab, I think he's definitely a fast, gritty player, but I think right now the problem is that who's playing defense? Because I think one of the problems with Iman is that cardio on the defensive side was an issue, especially last game and the game before. And with Zoo out, you're just losing on defensive depth.
Is in the pictures Wahab making dua that he doesn't get traded here? What's the deal? Yeah,
I think he's thankful that he got traded off.
Thankful he got traded. Yeah,
the joke is we don't know who the Sheikh is on this graphic.
Yeah, look, I agree with Hanan here that maybe attendance has played was a reason for this trade, with Hindi being away and then Wahab being in and out a lot. I think Hanan slots in well. I think you had a pretty good start to the season on Sabr before you got traded to Iman, which was also a little bit of a surprise, but also with Ali Wadi coming on, that wasn't a surprise there. And now with Zoo going back to Sabr, or going to Sabr now from Iman, also that fills a hole which is in the lineup now based on another trade that Sabr has made. So they've been in on all the transactions tonight.
I like what Mandra said. I like what Mandra said. Sabr has no Sabr. Like that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think this is a good trade for Sabr for sure. For Iman, I think there's some built-in chemistry for Hindi there with Jihad, and I don't know, Wahab will fit in somewhere, I'm sure, if he shows up, but he can play. So
the thing with, I know everyone's sort of saying, what the heck is he doing? He's just going crazy, but there's this method to his madness. We can talk about that in a couple of slides, but with Huzli, he realizes he has to try to make the playoffs, and I commend him for this, right? Instead of just lying back and just saying that this season is over, there's 3 games. He has a chance. He's gonna try to get to it. Ibrahim Hindi, he's not going to be here this week, and this is a very important game. So it's better that he have players in the lineup than potentially slightly, arguably better players who are not there at all. So no, I commend Huzli for this.
Allegedly better.
Well, we could talk about the lines, I guess, a little bit later on, I guess, when we wrap up the trades. But I mean, I've had extensive conversations with Huzaifa about like his plan, and he's even bounced trades off of me and stuff like that. And just there's no ill feelings after he traded me. Like, he literally traded me and then asked me my opinion on another move. Right? So, I have a ton of respect for both Yusuf and Huzaifa, who I worked very close with, being in my role, right? And so they did a phenomenal job, I think, in terms of the locker room environment, and there is some method to this madness. If you look at the defense core that Huzaifa's put together, right as of right now, actually, you know what? I'll address this after the next slide because it's more relevant, I think.
There's actually a slide that talks about that. So Huzli made that trade, and this is not this was also Huzli trade, right?
This was also yes.
Man, Maz Pachpai has like the hacky sack, man. Everyone's just kicking him around. He started was a third round pick, and then he keeps getting traded for someone that's just lower tier. And I don't know if that's just because Gloss drafted him too early from the get go, but I think Taqwa really wanted Maz. It's for Mantra and Kazi. It's one of their boys, and if anyone can get the best out of Maz, it's probably going to be Taqwa. And you'll get a little bit of finesse with playing with the people you're familiar with. Where Sadat Malik, always been a go-to solid defenseman as the number 2 in a 1-2 defense pair. And I think this also activates Suber to move someone like Huzaifa on forward as well, so that, they can try to get a little bit more of that, offensive capabilities going, as I think that's where they've been lacking right now.
Man, tell you, man, when I saw Sadat get traded,
he's your guy. He's your guy.
I played with Sadat for 3 seasons, and by far my favorite defense partner. He's just so reliable, so steady. Maz is a great teammate as well. He has a lot of high energy on the bench. He's very fast, very physical. Unfortunately, I think that Housley just kind of ran out of patience. He wasn't scoring, and that's what brought in to do, right? So I think that you're right in that. I think Abu and Kazi can get a lot out of him, or maybe even put him in a role where he can be more successful. Maybe they know what he needs, and so I'm gonna be excited to see how he slots in there.
Yeah, I think with Maz as well. I mean, he showed up almost with 10 minutes left in the game. I don't know, maybe he had some important thing that he had to take care of, whatever it is. But I think Housley can't risk those anymore. People coming in late, not showing up, etc. He needs to get bodies on and dressed up.
One thing, and I'm going to throw some criticism to whichever of the Tuckwa GMs greenlit this trade, is that this team now will suffer defensively. They've traded away probably their best defenseman this season on their team.
Now they have Kazi. Kazi plays defense.
Kazi barely plays defense. Okay, he
lines up there.
Yeah, he lines up there, but he ends up, he's like Bucks plays defense. Okay, but my point is that, like you just mentioned, so that's a very good number 2 reliable defenseman. Kazi is an offensive defenseman. Okay, and so even if you factor Kazi into there, they have Khalid Mughal, they have Mohamed Kazi, and then they've been playing Zahid Patel on defense. Okay, so who's their 4th defenseman? Just off the top of your head.
Samara.
There you go.
Samara,
who's
a forward. He's a forward.
Okay, so these guys are going to really have to hope that they really offensively overwhelm the other team, right? Otherwise, it's just going to be a crap show. I'm sorry to say, like, faster teams will get in, they'll weave their way in. And I feel bad for Yusuf Kapoor, who's had a really great season, because if they don't find a way to support him defensively, they're going to waste his efforts.
Here's the crazy thing, because I was reading the comments, and Mantra said, we need finish. I don't think Maz has a single goal this season. So I don't know if he accidentally forgot that he already has the correct punch baya, or what his plans are for Maz.
Well, there's chemistry there, right? There's familiarity with the other guys, so that's the hope, I think.
And with Kazi playing, he's playing D. I don't know if he's also playing forward or he's been playing full-time defense, but he's leading the league in scoring, or tied up there, right? And I think part of it is the fact that he has a stable defenseman that he can rely on, that he can quickly move. And to your point, Omar, if he's traded that person, will he have the same freedom to just free flow?
The answer is no. I can tell you, I'm telling you, as somebody good players can be tied to another player, but like we see the Hamza Chaudhry effect on RC, right? So there's certain players that just play well with each other because they know how to do that, right? So myself and Sadat, I know what I'm getting with Sadat, right? I can go to the other end of the rink, and Sadat will be he'll like say go, I got you, don't worry, I'll muscle these 2 guys out of the way, right? and he'll do that. I just don't see that anymore on Tuckwa, right? And if they focus so much on offense and on firepower and scoring goals, the goalie will suffer, right? So I guess the test will be this Friday. We'll see.
Yeah. And the last thing about Sadat, and then you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Sadat plays physical. He's a big guy, but he also doesn't take a ton of penalties, which is very good, right? He stays within the bounds of the rules and then does a really good job. Anyway, guys, let's move on here. It's already 49. Sorry. Okay.
Well, this is one other thing, is I have not met a defenseman that is better at holding the line than Sadat. Mm-hmm. In my time in Islam, I have not. There's no better defenseman at holding the line than Sadat Malik. I'll put that out there right now.
Okay. Well, now you're going to play with Johan and you're going to find out.
We'll see.
All right. So this is an interesting one that just came through earlier today, even though it was after the trade deadline, but the original thing happened before, so it still counts as trade deadline. Why don't you, Emma, do you want to explain this one?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, Taha Azar withdrew due to personal reasons. I'm not actually sure whether it was injury or something else, but either way, he withdrew. Now, I was actually shocked to see this trade because after the last 2 weeks with what happened for Isan and how they've really had, for lack of a better term, like dominant performances, I didn't think that they were going to make any adjustments to the team. But this came through, and I was like, wow, Ishak's gone. And he was he's a vocal guy, really great guy in the locker room and on the bench, and played well on our second line. And to see him go, it hurts. But at the same time, we're excited to see Mohamed Chaudhry join. And he comes from a family which has had a lot of success in the league. So, relations to Hamza Chaudhry, Hamza's cousin, I believe, and Ijaz Chaudhry's nephew. So there's some expectations there, high expectations there, at least, if I can say that. And, the team's happy to have him, and he's excited to be here. So we're just looking forward to having him slot in probably where Ishak was playing and add a little bit more offensive punch, which is where we have struggled earlier in the season.
Ishak was a huge loss for Isan. I think he had 5 points in 7 games. So definitely a big shoes to fill for the young Mohamed Chaudhry. But I think a lot of people from even hearing he is the next, big thing. But then, let's see. Like it's a different league, Iceland. So it's going to be interesting to see, how he adapts here.
Yeah, I think the thing is though is with even if you have a superstar or a potential superstar, is it worth shaking up a good thing? I mean, Isan is coming off of arguably the best game played this season, and you go and make a change based on this kid could be really good.
That's why I was shocked. But you know what, the guys, I have full trust in Kadir and Daoud that they did their research and they know what they're doing. So we're excited about it.
They can't trade you anymore, Imad. You don't have to say those things.
I know.
No, I asked Kadir, and I put this in bold, and I was like, I asked the GMs, I'm like, who is this kid? Because there's just a lot of chatter, and Kadir was like, I don't know who he is, but I heard a lot of good things about him, so let's see what happens. Right?
I think he just wanted to throw a wrench in someone else's plans.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyways, let's see what happens.
All right. So after all of this, where do the teams stand now? And I'm going to ask you guys to keep these brief because we're already at 53 minutes here. So I don't want to go past an hour if possible.
Yep.
So go for it really quickly. Let's start with you, Hanan.
So Rida, if no one even knows right now, they actually secured the playoffs already. So they're done. They can cruise control. They still have Haya on their tails at 7 points compared to their 10, but they're doing solid. Whereas Jikini San, this is the game for me to watch. Both of the teams are tied for first in that division. It's going to be really fun. And if there's any game you're going to watch this Friday, that should be the game you want to watch. And then for me, with Ikhlas, with the new shift, it's about seeing, are they going to survive? Because if they lose this next game, they are on the brink of missing the playoffs come returning from Ramadan. So for me, those are the big highlights right now.
Nice. Imad?
Yeah, along the same lines, similar thoughts. So first off, if Rida hasn't clinched a playoff spot yet, they need one more point to clinch. But yeah, I think coming out of the trade deadline, they're still the strongest team going into the final stretch. You have Haya, who I think they really need Luke and Salman to come back. And for whatever reasons, they're unavailable there. But they've done a decent job staying afloat and standing second in the division. The third spot, I mean, to no one's surprise, it really comes down to Iman and Sabr. I would give the advantage to Sabr right now. I think that the pieces that Huzaifa has put together now really fill a lot of those gaps that they have. It's just a matter of whether they have enough time to click this week. And then the disadvantage is that it's almost like a 6-week break for Ramadan between the games 8 and 9. So they have a very short period of time to put that together. And are they playing Iman this week or no?
No, Sabr is playing Rida.
You see it in the next slide.
They play Iman first week right after Ramadan. So that's going to be big for them. I think that's going to be the game of the season for both those teams.
Yep.
Once you go to the Makkah division, you have Yakin and Isan, game of the week, 100%. Those two teams have been very hot as of late, and will probably fight for first place overall, but it's a very tight division. Taqwa, as we mentioned, is probably going to suffer, I think, struggle based on their defensive players. And then Ikhlas is just up in the air. I mean, they've had attendance issues from a lot of their top guys. So if they can really start making an appearance, and then Badger starts to turn things around, he's shown flashes of going back and forth. He really needs some consistency there to be successful.
I think that if I circle back to what I want to say about Suber before, they have removed much of their offensive ability in their defense. Right, so that's a very reliable defenseman. Not so like he has a few points this season, but you're not going to count on him to score. You have Zuhair Fancy, who's now on that team. Right, he's a reliable stay-at-home defenseman, and he's probably not going. He doesn't score very much. Right, then you have an unknown commodity in Saif Ansari, who has yet to play a game in Islam, and he, by the way, needs to play the next 3 games to be eligible for the playoffs. And so the scouting report on him is that he has a shot, but he's more of your stay-at-home defenseman guy again. And then you have Vasim Kapadia, right, who's a breath of fresh air this season, but again, not super hard shot. He'll make smart offensive plays, but he's not putting the ball in the net necessarily, or I don't think he's done so this season. And so what it looks like to me is that Huzaifa has really gone out of his way to secure a defense core that will insulate Zaid Maju as much as possible. Okay, and that will, if he makes the first save, they'll make sure that they get in front and there's no rebounds to get at. And so that's what seems to be the logic. The way that I analyze that trade, or the trades that were made, is that he's really tried to assemble an elite stay-at-home defenseman core, right, to protect Zaid Maju as much as possible. Okay, and then if you look at their first line, and you'll mention you'll notice I didn't put Huzaifa in on defense, because I imagine now that with the trading of Maz, I imagine their first line to be Hamza Ali, Huzaifa, and Junaid, who will be back this week, barring any unforeseen circumstances. But that's a pretty good first line, right, in our league. It's a very fast line. Very fast line, very tenacious line. Like Hamza Ali, he has a smaller frame, but he doesn't play like it. Like he'll jump into the corners, he'll get into it with you. The same thing with Huzli, the same thing with Junaid. So this is a very good, in my opinion. They have a very solid top 5, and it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be important. And Hanan, you became a part of this as well. I think it's going to be really important to see whether or not they have that secondary scoring. Because if the secondary scoring is not there, right, then you guys might as well pack it up after Ramadan. You guys are done.
Yeah, I mean, with Huzli, like you mentioned, he's going to go center. And probably have, like you said, Hamza and Tahir and Wahab on the second line, and then Hamza, Hanan, Faisal, and Hamed.
I think Wahab's not on the
Wahab's
team
traded.
Sorry, Wahab, Abdul, Tahir.
So if I be Tahir, centering that second line.
But who's scoring is my question, right? Because Tahir has not scored. He's played in first, second line.
Listen, I talked to Tahir, and from what he's been telling me, he's getting a lot of pressure at home. From his wife to start, producing a little bit. I think, mashallah, our media team has done really well, and apparently his wife has found out that the player of the week gets free groceries for that week. And from what I've seen from Tahir shown me is that his wife's a little disappointed that free grocery has not made it to their house as of yet. And I think, with this additional pressure, we're going to see a little bit more from Tahir for the rest of the season, inshallah.
Courtesy of One World Foods.
But that will be the key. The key to Suber's success will be their secondary scoring, because we know the first line can do it. But as you've seen from Yakeen's success, Ihsan's success, and other teams around the league, is that's not just their first line. Rida's success, right, is that they get contributions throughout the lineup. Okay, and if Suber doesn't get it, right, then all these trades are all for naught, in my opinion. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was saying one of the messages that Huzli sent to me is he wanted to get his team to become faster and better shot blockers for Zaid. And then a secondary reason, and obviously this is a joke, but he said he was tired of Baksh's motivational TikTok before every game. He's like, I don't need that energy here.
I'm also tired of Baksh's motivational videos.
Yeah, but now he's here with us.
One other thing, actually, I was looking at it too. I actually do think the game with Taqwa and Ikhlas is also pretty big, in the sense that if Taqwa manages to beat Ikhlas, they are absolutely in the danger zone. I think that will put them at least 2 points minimum behind the next team, and with 2 games remaining. Well, I mean, if Ihsan loses, or if Yakeen loses, they'll be tied in points, right? So, I mean, you're right. Technically, they'll probably need 3 points to win, but that is the danger zone. So I'm hoping, with these new pieces that they're picked up, that they're able to gel, and hopefully their GMs return. I know, RC's had a few injuries here and there, but they gotta manage at least squeeze in 1 point.
They were working on their tan last week, sir. They were not injured. I'll tell you that.
All right, guys, let's go on to the last slide here. I don't think we'll have a lot of time to spend on this, but real quickly, a quick preview. So each one of us take one of the games. So Omar, I'll give you the first one.
So are you asking me to make a prediction or to talk about the game?
Prediction or at some point to
I think this is the game. I think. Look, this is my opinion. Very quickly, I'll say, like, if Luke and Salman are back, this is a very good game to watch. If they're not back, I think Iman will steamroll this team. Okay, and that's they got away with the win last week, in my opinion. Right?
They both did.
They both did, right? But
They both won.
And so Hanan's shaking his head, but probably because he's a little salty of being traded. But
Iman's doomed.
Iman looked great, and we have to give a shout out to Imran Alvi, who returned from injury.
Yes,
great to see him back. Yes, great to see him back. He's again just the energy and the presence and the vibe that he brings is amazing. He did look like he looked slightly rusty, but with Imran, I'm sure he's played like 3 or 4 times by now, and he should be in game shape. And he was a difference maker, right? I think for Iman. So again, I think the keys for and that's no disrespect to the other players, right? It's just that those are your top 2 defensemen. And so I think that Salman, Luke, if you're back, this is amazing game to watch. If not, I'm going to give the edge to Iman.
All right, Takwa Glass, who wants to take it, Imad or Hanan?
I don't mind taking it. I think. Sorry, go ahead if you want to do it.
No, okay, I'll do it. So my main thing is that Takwa has always been the first period is their best period kind of performance, whereas Iklas is going to bombard you for the full 30 minutes. So it's a matter of a survival and a matter of actually stepping up, beyond what you've been doing. I think if Badger, it might be the key difference maker. And here's the thing: is Badger knows Mantra, knows Kazi. These are all his boys as well, and I think that's going to motivate him to play even harder and even better. So I think Iklas is going to steal this. I think Takwa is going to kick themselves for thinking that they could, threaten to trade Badger last season, and now Badger's here to take his revenge.
Revenge of the Badger. Yakin Hassan, let me grab this one because I'm on the team. So are you actually, Ahmad, but we can both tackle this one.
No worries.
So this is going to be an interesting one because Yakin got the crap beaten out of them by Rida. Then Ihsan beat the crap out of Rida. And now Ihsan is going to try to do the same with Yakin. So it's like a circle, but both teams are coming off of really good wins here. And both teams have made very small modifications. Actually, my teams, we made a couple, but with Ihsan, they've made a small tweak. So we'll see how that affects the chemistry of the team. And I think it comes down to really attendance. As long as both teams have their people show up, this could be a very high-scoring game.
You missing anyone, RF, this week?
Wouldn't you like to know?
We'll find out at Puck Drop. Last game, Subber versus Rida. We've talked about Rida. As long as Josefa shows up on time in his Crocs and socks, they'll be good to go. I think they have a strong team regardless of whatever happened last week. Every team is going to have a loss in the season, no matter how good they are. I suspect they'll bounce back really hard, and that makes it tough for Subber, who's coming in with a revamped team with a lot of new guys. How many new guys is it? Is it 5 new guys or 6 new guys this week? Or
Who even knows?
I was having fun looking through Subber's lineup from what they drafted, and they literally have, I think, 1 or 2 people left from the original.
Can we just flip through their trade things and see how many new players they have this week?
Oh, this week.
This week, it's probably like 4, 5.
They have 4, and then Saif Ansari, who hasn't played yet. So they have 5 potentially new guys, and plus Hamza Ali, 6.
6, yeah. So
Wow.
6 guys. That's like half your team is new this week. And how are they going to gel and get that chemistry going against a very tough Rida team? I don't, however good of a team you are, I think that's going to be very, very difficult. So I think Rida is going to have to be able to take advantage of this.
Subber 2.0. Let's see how they do.
Yeah.
And with that, gentlemen, that is the end of tonight's show. We tried to keep it under 1 hour. We couldn't. We went about 4 minutes above.
Sorry, guys.
A
Gentlemen.
lot of good content.
Yeah. Thank you, Omar, Hanan, Imad. Thank you very much. And inshallah, we'll see you guys on Friday.
Assalamu alaikum.
Right. Assalamu alaikum.